you serve. Walk like you did.
Once you get all of your lines scratched off, and you need to just turn your paper so that you can see all the gold, then you're going to take a tissue. I don't want you to use one of those brown paper towels above the sink because that's a little bit too rough. You need a tissue for this, and you're going to wipe off all of the oil pastel that we put on there before. So wipe that all off. Be careful not to get your fingers on the black too much. Remember to use this board or this paper. Then you need to decide at this point, do you want your objects to be gold or do you want the background to be gold? And you can't do the objects gold and the background gold because you wouldn't see anything. So on this one I'm going to make the background gold. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a pattern of gold. So I think I'm going to start with using a ruler, and I'm going to go around the objects on my outside. I'm just going to make a line so that if I don't get all of that gold done, that I just have a border of that, and then I'll just keep making my border wider and wider. I'm going to just draw a line in showing the outside of this. I'm going to turn it upside down so it's easier. I don't want to have to touch that. And put my paper on here so I'm not touching my board with my hand. Then I'm going to scratch out that gold around my black objects. My objects are shapes, not lines. That's why it was really important to make shapes, not lines. And now I'm going to scratch that out. Now, the tool has, the tip of it is going to make a really small line, and the side of it's going to make a larger, just scrape off a larger area. So I'm going to hold it like this. I'm not going to hold it like I hold a pencil. I'm going to hold it like this and use the side of that to scrape out. And I'm going to turn this around so that I put the tip of this right up next to the object. I have a little bit more control. And I'm just going to scrape that gold out. And reveal the bling bling, baby. This is a really time consuming, very time consuming process. And if you are not at this point today, you probably are not going to have time to do a gold background. So if you're still scratching out by the end of this class period, you are not going to have time to do a gold background. unless you make arrangements to come in after school, because now you're going to have 2 days to complete your scratch art piece. So then I would go around and scratch out all that, and then the parts that I marked off. And then if I have time, I'll bring that line in even closer to the center and do another area of gold. If you want to have a black background, then you're going to make your objects gold. So I'm going to start with this cartouche here, and everything, the objects inside, I'm going to leave those black, and I'm going to scrape out around those objects and fill this space, this entire space, with gold. So that stands out. You need contrast for that to stand out. Remember to turn your paper as you're scratching so that you get a nice, you have more control over your tool. So inside this hieroglyphic here, you just scratch that out. And hold it this way to get a wider line. Just scratch this. Isn't that a lovely sound? Scratch like fingernails on a chalkboard. So much fun. So I would fill this entire space with gold, leaving the hieroglyphics inside, leaving those black. For the rest of it, for things like her hair, put a texture on the hair by making lines that go up and then around the contour of her hair. If you wanted to make those braids, you could do that. They did wear braids, and that would just be a crisscross pattern in each one of those lines. For the clothing, either make the clothing all gold, or you can make a pattern in there that'll make that stand out. On the pizza up here, I would do this, I would do where the sauce and the cheese is, I would do that all gold, and then leave my pepperoni black, or you could do the pepperoni gold, leave the cheese area black, and then maybe make this line a little bit wider around the outside. Now notice that the cheese, if the cheese area is gold, then I have to leave a little line here in the crust so I can see a difference. If I shade that all in gold, then that's not going to work. Let's see, do you have a toilet? You do have a toilet, good. Alright, for the toilet, if I wanted this, if I have a gold background, then I don't want to just shade in my entire toilet with gold. I'm sorry, if I have a black background, I don't want to shade in the entire toilet with gold. Use directional lines to make things look round. So you'll have a curved line in there instead of coloring the entire thing gold, because then you need to have this line showing here so that you have a difference between the side and the top. Now you could shade in this whole area, you could shade that all in gold, but you have to be mindful of the lines. You have to make sure that you don't have the objects with different shapes. This is a form, it has several shapes put together. If I shade in that whole thing, then my toilet disappears. So I have to have black lines in between. So I would do maybe a horizontal line on the top part here, going around the seat. And on the side here, I would do a vertical line coming down. And then maybe a diagonal line, so I've got a different direction line at the top. For animals, you need to put the texture, whether you're making a gold background or a black background, you need to put the texture on your animals. Texture on an animal is fur. Do not make the fur go every which direction. Think about the direction that you pet the animal. So for this little Chihuahua, his hair would go with the direction of his back here, and what you need to do to make the texture of the fur is to make little bitty small marks for fur, just like we did in our texture packet.
Looks like a porcupine.
He looks like a porcupine. I don't think you'll look like a porcupine when you get all the texture in. And notice she's got a muscle here. You can make the hair go down here. And then she's got a poodle over here. Would the poodle have curly hair? Okay, so maybe for the poodle, either make it wavy or curly. I think wavy would work for this. And easier than doing a little circle. If you do a little circle, that's kind of hard to do. So wavy for like a poodle. Alright, do it! So Paige has a gold background here, which...
I'm not Paige.
Morgan, okay, scratch that, start over. Morgan has a gold background, which looks fabulous, very smooth. But now she has a problem that she has to solve, which is this water symbol is a line. So, Morgan, what are you going to do to solve that?
Make it into a shape.
Make it into a shape. So you can make it a black shape with gold around it. Bring it, baby. Bling, bling. Woo! For objects like this one has a black background. For objects like this hook here, I would do every other one of these shapes gold. These lines that go across. And then I would make this line a little bit thicker to bring that out. So make every other shape here gold. And that'll make that pop. For the Ankh, I would definitely, this is the Ankh, that symbolizes eternal life. And that one, I would make that whole thing gold. This one, the hieroglyphics here are gold. So this line around the outside needs to be a little bit thicker, a little golder there. It's a little bit brighter. For his skirt, he's got like a wraparound kind of skirt here. So for this wraparound skirt, I think I would do a pattern instead of making it all gold. If I make it all gold, then you won't be able to tell this shape from this shape. So I think I would do like a directional line, and directional lines go with the outside or the contour line of the object. So this line here is going to determine the direction of all these lines. So I'll curve that line out. And then maybe bring this one down this way. For his legs, I would make his legs all gold. Then his arms, if I made his whole hand gold, then I'd lose his fingers. So then I have to choose. If his legs are gold, should his arm be gold? And if his arm is gold, I'm going to lose some of that detail. So maybe not. Maybe just this bracelet needs to be gold, and then go over these lines a little bit heavier now, since I have a black background. This piece, his headpiece, this could all be gold. I totally would make this all gold. Couch is a great opportunity here to do something funky. So a pattern, I would think about patterns that you see in fabric. Alright, so circles are a little bit hard to do Diagonals are a little easier, but I'm looking at this couch thinking polka dots, polka dot couch. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a polka dot couch. Now you can make it a regular or an irregular pattern. I'm making this one a regular pattern with a regular amount of space in between each object. In this case, it's a circle. And I would cover this entire couch with polka dots, including the front down here. The lamp over here, maybe zigzags on the lamp. Pattern of zigzags, repeated. The toilet paper. A lot of people have the toilet paper. Use a curved directional line to make that toilet paper look round. If I shade in this entire stack of TP with gold, then you won't know that it's a whole stack. It'll just look like a big cylinder. And we want it to look like TP. So I'm going to make a few curved lines. If these aren't curved, it won't make it look round. And I'm only going to make them on one side. Just a few curved lines to bring that out. Because I definitely don't want to lose the definition between each one of those short little cylinders. Because then it'll look just like some random tall cylinder. Let's see, where else can I put pattern? I can put a wood texture on the chair. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go over those lines just a little bit to define them a little bit more, a little bit brighter. Make sure all my lines match up here. And then just do a wood texture like we did in our Elements of Art packet. The chair also could have a pattern on it. It could be painted. This eternity sign, I would make that all gold. This dresser, the dresser could be, it could be painted. You could make it like a pattern on there, or you could paint, or you could make a wood texture. And the little doggy down here, it's starting to get a little bit of definition. You want to make sure that you don't get so much texture on there that you lose any of your detail. So I'm just going to put a little bit more texture on the doggy. Is this ice cream? What is this?
Rice. It's a rocket.
Oh, it's a rocket. Oh, well then it needs flame textures, and we learned how to do that in our Elements of Art packet too. But wait a minute. You have a rocket ship, but there is no upward mobility in the afterlife. There's no upward mobility, dude. Do you own a rocket ship now? Well then, okay, it could be a toy rocket ship. If you own a toy rocket ship, that's what it could be. But if you don't own a rocket ship, you cannot take one to the afterlife. You do not own $1 million. You can't take $1 million with you. I would fill in this gold as well. Okay, look for places you can put texture. Is this a pillow?
Yeah.
Alright, the pillow I would definitely put some cool little textures in there too. Pattern. Maybe the pillow is from the couch. Maybe the pillow needs an irregular pattern of circles to match the couch. Because, you know, we gotta still have style in the afterlife. Okay, look for places to add texture and detail. Okay, on this one I still see a little bit of oil pastel. So I'm gonna take my tissue and wipe that down first. Get all that oil pastel off. And I like the dots in here. I like this pattern. I would go ahead and scratch those off so that those are brighter. Has a texture here already in the ice cream cone. That makes that pop out. That looks good. I would take, there are shapes within shapes on this one. I would make this gold in here, leave the black line around the outside to reveal more bling. The Egyptians loved their gold. They believed that the gods or pharaohs, that their skin was gold, that they were precious metal. Now notice that I did not just a solid color there, but I scratched it off in two different diagonal directions. I scratched diagonally to the left first. You see these lines come down to the left, and then I scratched down the other direction to the right to create some symmetry. It also kind of makes that look like it's a little bit rounder. Now cars. If I shade this whole thing in, the cars, you're not going to see the difference between the fender and the tire. So what you need to do is make some directional lines on this, and I'm going to make some curved lines going around this fender because I know that it's curved. Even though it does, I can't see that here. I just know from experience that a fender is curved. So I'm going to make some curved, repeated lines. That also creates rhythm through there. And create some curved rhythmical lines here. And I want that car to stand out. I want it to be gold. So now I'm going to figure out what to do on the rest of the car. I think I'm going to make some horizontal lines through that space there. So I'm not scratching off the whole thing. You can see that there's black in between these lines. And I can always go back and add more lines if I want. That stands out pretty nicely. I think I could put more lines on there, but what I want to do is go through the whole thing and put a little bit everywhere and then come back and add if I want to. Okay, on this object, this is a cylinder again, so this curved line at the bottom, I'm going to repeat that curve, that direction. I'm going to make parallel curved lines up one side. Now if I don't make these curved, it's really not going to make it look round at all. It'll make it flat. Make that stand out a little bit. Now it looks like it has some dimension. It looks like it's got a shadow on this side. Bling bling. Alright, this hockey stick, I would make that all gold. I would make this, either I would make lines in it so I had stripes in it, or I'd make it all gold. Onk, make that gold. On the cartouche here, I would make this part gold. And go through, you don't necessarily have to make it all solid gold to start with. You can make these lines through, and notice you can still see it, but there are lines there. And then if I've got time, I could come back and scrape off even more. But I do want to go all the way to the edge with that. And I would scratch off all of this gold. The pie pan, this is a pie. I think maybe just some directional lines here. I'm going to actually make diagonal lines just to give that definition. Pull that out. Chicken. What do I do with the chicken? Let's try some diagonal lines in sort of an irregular pattern. So I'm going to change the direction of those diagonal lines. Because the surface of this chicken, it's not going to be smooth. So I want to create sort of a rough, uneven texture. And I would fill the entire thing with that. This is the Egyptian symbol for the sun. And since this is gold right here, I think I would just round this out and make that line a little bit thicker there. And then of course put fur on the doggy. Okay, this one is gold on the background, and that is some serious bling. Now, that dog is going to stand out once we get the gold revealed on the back. I wouldn't worry about putting the texture inside the dog just yet. What I would do is the texture on these feathers here, on that one. Since this one is black in the back or gold in the background, he doesn't really need to do a whole lot to these other shapes. That's really going to make it pop. This is going to be gold, this will be black. I would probably do the eye gold, but I would go ahead and do as much of the gold in the background as I could. Now, when you're doing the gold background, you want to use the widest side of your scratch art tool and do long pieces, scratch off long pieces. See that? I didn't have it pressed down all the way. It didn't reveal that much gold. Let's see if I can get a little bit more. This particular piece, I can see a bit of a sheen to the surface, which makes me think that there's some oil possibly on the scratch art board, which might make it a little bit difficult to scratch off. It seems to be working. Now I would also use a ruler to mark off some of your areas so that if you don't get the gold everywhere that you want it, that it looks purposeful. Use your artistic license. If you didn't mean for it to be that way, then make it look like you meant for it to be that way. Bottom line, nobody really knows what an artist is doing except the artist. So just let them think that that's the way you meant to do it. And I would go all the way up to that line there. And remember to put your tool, put the sharp edge of the tool right up next to the edges of objects. You'll have a lot more control. Turn your paper when you need to. And I really should have this underneath my hand here. Now, I think on this one, once I got the gold out, or the gold border around the outside, I think my next thing I would do is maybe draw a gold line around my god and then fill that in gold around him and then try to work that space in between, because he's the most important thing. The god is the most important thing in the entire piece, so you want your god to stand out. Okay, this one, nice texture here. Really love this texture right here. Nice pattern on the dress. Nice curvy lines on the poodle. I would put maybe some more lines on Djibouti there, the poodle. On the face, think about the direction that you pet the animal. These lines should probably be coming up and over like this. They're going horizontal, so it's going to flatten him out. The pizza. The pepperoni is gold. The cheese area is black. So this, I would make this either those lines that go like this. We go back and forth with a diagonal pattern to make it look a little uneven, kind of like I did the chicken. That'll make it look more purposeful. And the car. On the car, this one's got quite a bit of detail. I am noticing that it's missing a line here and here, and a line here and here, and one more line here, so that our tires are separate from the rest of the car. And then I would do a series of diagonal lines. So I'm going to go diagonal this way, and I'm not shading the whole thing in gold. If I shade the whole thing in gold, then I'm going to lose so much detail. I'm going to go diagonally on this one. Try to make sure I go all the way to the edge with those lines. Let's take a look at that. And then go diagonally the opposite direction so that those are two different shapes. And they read as two different shapes. And then I would do the same thing. Maybe this is a vertical line here and here. Here at the grill, I would leave this part just the way it is. Just bring these lines with the directional. Look at the outside line. The outside line is called the contour line. So you want to stay with that contour line and use that as your key to your directional lines. Yeah, I would leave this grill just the way it is. And the tires are black on a car, so you really could leave the tires just black. The windshield, maybe the windshield, just leave the windshield black too. I'd make maybe an extra line here. Make this a little bit wider through here because there is a frame around the windshield. I would do this, this, and then a line around there. Oh, and then maybe some curved lines on the bumper. Okay, these objects I would make gold. Now this is a line here, and it's black on the background, so that's okay. But I would make it a little bit wider. The cell phone, I would just make those lines a little bit darker. I think this should fit the contour of the outside shape. Maybe this part here, gold, either just gold diagonal lines. And I would think, I do think to save on time and to budget your time, I would do lines and then come back in and, like, if you want it all gold. Now this looks really good all gold right here. It's very shiny. For these buttons, I don't know that you need to do anything other than to make the lines a little bit thicker, and then if you have time, you could come in and do some diagonal lines going opposite directions so you don't lose the definition of each button. Might be a little bit tricky there. Okay, French fries. Of course, they are known for their golden arches, so the M definitely should be filled in. Gold. I would do the gold. On the French fries themselves, take your tool and do the diagonal lines in opposite directions for each French fry so that you have a distinction between each one of those fries. We don't want to lose the detail that we've already added. I made it diagonal this way and that way. Which way does this go? I guess I'm going to have to make that horizontal so it doesn't blend in with the other ones. But I want to make sure that I've got a black area around the outside because this one's going to be gold. And if it's all gold, then you'll lose all your definition. Now, if you have a Sharpie marker, you can try using your Sharpie marker to fix areas. On this one, I added a French fry back in there with my Sharpie marker.